Guys, looks like everything's sitting well. Hello, welcome to my YouTube tutorial. Today, it's going to be more of a made-up scene. I'm going to work with, I think today's focus is going to be having a relatively strong item in the midground with another strong item in the foreground, and also exploring leaving whites in the sky in the wet and wet stage. Okay, just seeing how everything's going. So 11 by 14, 15 quarter sheet of Stonehenge Aqua. Just taking my Hake brush, medium size, just wetting this whole page. In this stage, while everything gets wet, the water starts to, page starts to expand and whatnot, and I'll lift up the clips and kind of let it stretch naturally during the process. While that's taking place, we'll get our palette set up, spray a little bit of water to get these guys activated, and then add a little bit more of my common paints that I like to have really fresh from the tube. Every time I'm essentially putting fresh burnt umber and Payne's ultramarine on there. So those are two that I often use straight from the tube, mainly for the darker concentration later on. Now, palette wise and color wise, I don't really have too much of a plan, but I do want to feed some reds into the mid-ground trees. I also want to, let's see, I was talking about how I want the white in the sky in spots, like just that brilliant white of the paper. But I'm also thinking I want not so much a wash of raw sienna, and instead having maybe more of a select areas for the edges of clouds to see if that could take place. I'm just going to put in a little bit of alizarin. I said raw sienna, I don't want so much of a wash as is the edge of clouds. So it's kind of more of a padding and putting in effect. Let's see, get everything nice and flat. I think everything should be good at that point. Switch right over to a little bit of ultramarine into this watery mix. Everything's going to be light and airy in the sky. Might have some hints of a dark cloud, but we'll see. Actually, let's do a little bit of Payne's Gray. Just kind of pulling a little off into my watery mix with the Hake. Mix a little bit of alizarin in there. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to be really timid with this sky. And just let it happen, do you want that raw sienna mixed in along those edges and see how that affects it in the end. And then far distance, the idea of clouds. You can see that I'm having a little bit of trouble with the paper today, and it's kind of feeding everything in towards that middle. And a little bit of paper towel just to get a little variation in that white. And I think that's really all I want to do with the sky. I am going to pull some water off that edge right there. Let's see. Let's mix ultramarine with light red to blue. That's our distant background. Come forward with some raw sienna. Burnt sienna. Let's do some lemon yellow. Back to ultramarine. Let's do ultramarine and raw sienna, burnt sienna. I haven't done that mixture in a while. Darken things up. Everything's still kind of soupy though at the moment. I think I'll come over and do a more neutral dark at the base of this structure. The mid-ground tree line that I was talking about, first of all, let me finish with the horizon. This is burnt umber into that mix with a little bit more of that ultramarine. Just feed in trees back in here. More concentrated for that dark that I was going to feed in here. That mid-ground tree line, I think I'd want it right about here. And everything's still wet and wet, so I'm going to pull it up, but it's going to really diffuse. I'm going to have to come back in with more clarity as things dry. But I just want like a fun mass of trees in this area. light red. Payne's gray. Maybe I'm going to turn this into a water pathway right here. Payne's gray. Then on this side, do one of those narrow trees. So I put in a lot. Raw sienna, burnt sienna. Raw sienna. Let that diffuse and a little more defined feels on top. Feed that up and in as if it's a turn in the bend. A little bank right there. I think at this point we're going to have to do a dry off. I'm just going to lift that part of that trunk right there. Doing last flattening. All right, earbuds if you have them, watch out. Stretch this a little better. Unfortunately, with that intense blow drying, you could see that I had made some major mistakes utilizing that. It was too much water sitting on the paper, and on that setting it starts pushing things around, and once that starts happening, things start drying weird and you start getting weird edges. And I pulled out right there, and I pulled out right there with the paper towel while that was happening. So I should have stayed on a just a lower shut setting with the dryer. That's literally the only way I could have prevented that from happening. Some people let their paintings, maybe they'll start in the morning, let it dry, and then when they come home from work or whatever the next day, they'll then continue forth with it. I like to do a painting in one sitting. That's just my approach and the way I do it. And I think whatever works for you, there's no right or wrong way. That's the one thing about like tutorials and videos and just teaching in general, is that you're going to have the person teaching is going to have their habits and their preferences. I have my preferences, this paper. My palette choice is this paper. Work from light to dark, things like that. And I think a lot of teachers do inherently know that they have those biases, and I think and I hope a lot of teachers will explain their biases, maybe explain why they have their biases, but the art student will have to realize that there is no, essentially a right or wrong. Like, they often start taking the teacher's word as gospel, but the teacher's word should be a starting point in the student's exploration of painting or anything in general. So anything that I do or say, take it with a grain of salt. Feel free to use any of my techniques or none of my techniques. I will genuinely not be offended. I want you to know that I'm constantly always experimenting and learning new things, and that's what you should be doing as well. Watch different painters, explore different things, and see what works for you. So I just took the rigger and did just variations on trunks, and I'm taking the side of the rigger for a different textural effect. I could get some Payne's gray right down here to get that dark cut and shadow, and then I can just splatter painting water right in the middle of the painting. I can wet and pull that around if I want and soften it up. And I could take raw sienna and just come up here and drag that out some if I wanted to. I do want a lighter wash so that I can bring this out here and bring more to that far horizon. So this is just a light mix of whatever on the palette with just a lot of water on the dry in the distance. And it kind of helps pull everything together. I could take a stronger concentration and bring that shoreline or edge of that river around as well. And then we'll get a variation in tone back there. I could even bring that into the trees if I want. And if I wanted to, even a darker, just thinner line right there. So I'm just kind of correcting that mistake that had happened with that extreme pushing due to the blow dryer. Now I'm taking Payne's Gray and Burnt Umber, defining the edge a little bit of this guy. I also have his reflection coming down. And I could take that just water on the rigger and spread that around some. Or I could also use a water bottle and spray stuff right there. Just soften a little bit in here. Anyway, so we have two things. I'm going to put in this tree trunk. And help it sit. But now what I want to do is take the hake, make it a little bit dry and flayed out. This is ultramarine and lemon yellow. And I'm going to have some up in this tree. And I could have it as some base growth. Now I'm going to mix just mix some Payne's Gray in that. Into that other mixture. It kind of gives me that bluish green for slightly darker. Okay. Now, just wetting the brush a little bit just so I can pull out some raw sienna, but I want to dry off the brush as well to get that crazy end. May have not got enough pigment on there. Let's wet our light red. Try to grab some of that. So the light red is definitely more opaque. Okay, now let's take our rigger get a dark again, ultramarine, burnt umber. I could take the back of the brush handle to put a little bit of marks in there. Get some variety with a little growth. Maybe a few more darks on top. Maybe some of these start a little bit lower and closer to us. You could also have some of these growths up here. Put a little bit of birds in the sky. Get some activity. I'm going to stand up and take a look at it from overhead, see how things are looking. Let's try one last go at it, getting a little bit more. What we'll do? We'll take a chance. Wash it off the brush. I'm curious how some light washes up in here would affect it. And just last minute put in a wash, see what happens. There's some change to it. It's going to dry, but I think that might give it a denser feel, because the less light is going to permeate. However, I do think that some light variation is interest in there to draw the eye. This is a mixture of ultramarine, Payne's gray, burnt umber. I think we're pretty much done at this point. Really not much more I want to add, and then we just be tickling at this point. I mean, we could take as much pure lemon yellow as we can get, or sap green. But I'll try to stay lemon yellow just to keep it within the Ron Ranson palette. A little bit of All right. If you want, at this point, take a light wash on the rigger. Just add a little bit more connecting tissue, branches and whatnot up there, if you feel the need. Okay, so I think we're going to call this one done. We'll dry it off and put it over a mat over it. Okay, so looks like everything's dry. I'm going to sign it. We'll put a mat over it. So once again, I'm Andrew Broussard, and I have a whole bunch of links down below. If you I have an Etsy page if you want to check that out. I have a Patreon page if you'd like to join that. I did my first exclusive video for that yesterday. And if you want to send anything my way, PayPal wise, feel free for art supplies. Check me out on Instagram at the Facebook page. I'm also involved a lot with the Ron Ranson Disciples Facebook page, so check that out, join that. We have painters of all levels, and everybody's really friendly, and shares a lot of tips, techniques, and videos. It's a really great group, so check that out as well. Do have a little bit of water still, so let's put them out. I'll adjust this and I'll take a photo and put it on the video screen, the upload. Let me pull this out of here. So there you have it. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great day. Oh, somebody named Barking Tree was in the chat. Hey, Barking Tree, good morning. All right, everybody, have a great day. Bye-bye.